Hello teachers, thank you for joining me today in this video guide for how to use liquid watercolors. Today I'm going to show you a technique loved by my students. First, let's have a look at the medium itself. Liquid watercolors, also known as dye, paper dye or artist dye, is a highly concentrated pigment powder. You can get a variety of brands depending on where in the world you are. The main way that we use this medium is by diluting it with water. The more pigment powder you put in the water, the stronger your color will be. Unfortunately, this medium cannot be stored for extended periods of time as it can grow mold. It is best to prepare it for the day or maybe 2 days and then dispose of it. For this reason, I tend to only mix them up in small quantities. For our first technique today, which my students like to call the firework technique or magic paper, I'm going to be working with red, orange and yellow. Yellow, being the lightest of the three values, is the one that I'm going to mix up into the liquid form. The other two, the orange and the red, I'm going to put into salt shakers. We're going to use them in their dry powdered form. So it's quite important for the powder to be loose. You can break up any clumps with the end of a teaspoon, as the powder needs to be dry and loose. Begin by painting your wet grade art paper with the yellow liquid watercolor. Paint it so that it is well saturated. And while it is still wet, sprinkle your orange and red powdered dye or watercolor across the page. The powder will create beautiful blooms in the wet sections of your paper. Allow your paper to dry thoroughly before using it for your artwork. The second technique I'm going to share today involves mixing up all three of the colors into their liquid form. Again, we start with the lightest color first. We call this a wet in wet technique. That means that the yellow that I've placed on my wet grade art paper needs to be wet as I add tiny drops of the orange and the red to the paper. This only works if the surface of the paper is still wet. As you drop small amounts of the second and third colors onto your paper, they will create blooms as they flow with the wetness of the paper. You can drop a second color on top of blobs that you've already dropped with your first color and watch as the water moves these into beautiful flow patterns on the surface of your art paper. Again, leave these to thoroughly dry before using them for your art. I don't recommend that beginners mix cool and warm colors at the same time, as we know that the result could end up with a rather unfortunate grey or brown color, resulting as a mixing of those two color schemes. I hope you've enjoyed learning about these two techniques I regularly use with my students when using our liquid watercolors. I have written many lesson plans for you that are available right here on TPT, and if you are interested in knowing more about the ways in which I have used these techniques with my students in our art lessons, continue watching this video where I have introduced some of the lessons. You are welcome to take a look at those lessons. The links for them are down in the description below this video. And I hope you found value in what I shared with you today. Pop back again soon to learn a bit more about art techniques and media with me here at One Teacher's Journey. Take care, everyone.